Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today. Level Up with me, Lindy Pearson. I have a very special guest today. Our topic is HR, and we're going to talk about how HR motivates workers to perform at the highest level possible, maintain an organizational culture, high morale, adds value to the company by developing leaders and training employees, administrative services, recruitment, working with issues of motivation, engagement, learning solutions, helping employees develop as individuals, the whole kit and caboodle. So I have a self-proclaimed people and culture geek with over 13 years experience in all facets of human resources, also Pepperdine graduate. Without further ado, Miss Maria Cordova, President and founder of HumanageHR.
Hi, Lindy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, wanted to just kind of learn a little bit more about how you got into the industry. You have 13 years experience and now you have your own company. Tell me, how'd you get started?
Yeah, I feel like in the field of HR, we either get into this field one of two ways. Either we choose it and we go that direction with, education, or we kind of fall into it and fall in love with it, and that's me. I started I was an executive assistant for a firm in downtown LA, and I was reporting directly to in-house legal counsel, who at the time was handling a lot of the HR. Well, the organization in 2 years went from 50 to 150 people, so it was high growth. And so she started mentoring me and really, challenged me to take on some of the HR tasks little by little. And I just found that I really liked it. And so, I ended up just learning as much as I could, soaking everything up. And from there went to a startup and was thrown into situations I probably shouldn't have been thrown into so early in my career. But you learn, and I'm a question asker, and so I had a lot of good attorneys in my contacts that I was able to reach out to whenever I was having issues.
Experts finding more experts. I like it. So when did you start HumanageHR?
6 years ago.
6 years ago. And how has that been, in terms of, I'm sure like getting something off the ground, having your passion intertwined with everything and making it a profitable business, and then having something like this happen. How has that journey been for you?
It's been a wild ride. You start a business, it's so scary and exciting at the same time. You just have all these emotions mixed up, and every day is new and different, and you don't really sleep a whole lot, and you stress a lot in the beginning. And, you work hours upon hours and weekends, and then you kind of get into the groove of things. And I think things just kind of organically grow. You learn from each client, and you learn, what works, what doesn't work, and you learn from your mistakes. And that's kind of like how it's been. I've been really lucky to work with some amazing clients. And so, it's been a fun ride. I think COVID obviously has been interesting. It's been really difficult for employers. And so, March and April was just a lot of chaos and panic. And now it's just, okay, it really felt like called to serve, and how can I support you through this? And so a lot of the conversations now are around, obviously, what does work look like now in this climate? So yeah.
What's your favorite kind of client?
Favorite kind of client? My favorite kind of clients. Well, I should probably talk about kind of what size clients I deal with, maybe just back it up a little bit. So my typical client size is anywhere from 2 employees to 200. In fact, I've worked with startups that are just hiring their first employee, so it just depends. My favorite kind of client is one that knows they need support and is ready to listen and be open to, suggestions and just ideas on how to make the workplace better. So I think my ideal client is just somebody who knows that investing in employees is going to help the organization's success in the long run, and there is it is going to impact their bottom line. It does make a difference.
Absolutely. You know, throughout the years, I've talked to many people about HR, and it's kind of funny. You know, we have 5 generations in the workforce right now, and I feel like we all kind of have our own idea of what HR is. When I was younger, I worked for my family, and the HR person was my grandfather. He's also the owner. He's also the end all of everything. So when HR called me into his office and I had to walk down that long hallway, I've made references. It was like going to the principal's office or like getting in trouble because, oh no, what did I do wrong? And I think we've come a long way since then. So what's like the biggest thing that you think people don't really understand what you do, you personally in your firm? Because some people think of it more as payroll, some people think of it as work culture, some people even go as far as coaching, you know, training and stuff.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing maybe that some folks don't understand, I do think that more and more leaders are coming to understand the importance of HR and really how multifaceted it is and how much more it is than just compliance, hiring and firing. I think that maybe what some folks don't realize if they're not in this field is that the creative design aspect of HR. So for those of us who are in this field, we're really thinking about, you know, building a workplace that doesn't suck. I mean, that's just, it's how do we make it a human workplace? We're always thinking about changes and initiatives and, you know, ways that we can create to help an organization attract and motivate and retain the talent they need to be successful. So
yeah,
this can be anything from, you know, the candidate experience, how do they feel during the interview process, and to onboarding and how welcome do people feel, and training and development and giving them a platform to really like show up and take risks and have a voice and be themselves and create and contribute. I think that those are just, there's a lot of layers to HR.
Yeah, for sure. So I was hoping to get into our little role play, something that I like to do, and I'm going to pretty much ask you some questions in regards to maybe what like other business owners are thinking about during this time, and also just kind of incorporate some of the things of how you differentiate yourself in the many layers. So
okay,
I'm gonna put my business owner hat on, and the first question is, usually when you're experiencing growth or compliance issues, your time, not attracting the right type of talent, uncertainty has crept in, you know it's time for HR to step in. What are some other categories that people don't think about for HR? So we kind of, you know, talked about this. What are some of the things?
Other categories. Yeah, I mean, I really think it all comes down to the employee experience, right? What is the workplace like? What are employees saying about you to their friends and family? I mean, we have these platforms now like Glassdoor where folks are talking and candidates are interviewing you just as much as you're interviewing them. You might be, like researching them or stalking on their social media, but which really you're not supposed to do, but folks do it, right? If your social media is not private, your employer might be looking. And the candidates are doing the same thing. They're researching organizations. They want to know more about your culture. They want to know what it's like to work there. They want to hear from other employees. They want to get a realistic idea. And so they're doing the research. So your actions really do matter.
What is your favorite part of the HR? I know it's kind of like you're not allowed to ask a mom who her favorite kid is. But like what is it that puts that like passionate side? Because every time you talk about stuff, no matter where you are, no matter where I've seen you, your face lights up. I mean, you really do, like, it hits home for you to make sure that people are, going to work, or I shouldn't say that anymore. working from wherever they are working, but make sure that they get satisfaction, that they get respect, that, that productivity, is high. What's your favorite?
Oh my gosh. That's like a really loaded question. It's really hard to unpack what my favorite thing is. I guess
favorite thing today. It could change.
I think in what I do, my favorite part is watching what we put forward, like the initiatives we put forward, make a difference. I've literally seen with clients who have like 50% turnover in the first 90 days. And we have to get down to the bottom of it. Like, why is this happening? What is their experience and how can we do better? And a lot of that is involving the employees. So I think involving the employees in the process, right? So changing that around, doing things that'll make onboarding, a better experience, better training, help them feel welcome. So those kind of things. And then watching that over time, reduce turnover and change morale. And, you hear it from people. And that's
feeling, right?
Yeah, that's like what's rewarding. And then the clients, obviously, who's so grateful. And one of my favorite things is just getting an email, or like sometimes they'll even put a note in the check and say, I appreciate you so much. Like, I don't know what I would do without you. Thank you so much. One of my clients calls me her binky. It's just knowing that you're appreciated.
Yeah.
And so I think it is a little bit different being a consultant because, they want you to come in. They don't always know what they need you for, but they know that they need you. And eventually when they see the impact, they really kind of appreciate you. So it is a different experience being in-house, because I've been both, right? In-house HR and consulting. So.
Right on. Okay, so your superpower, besides, since we already know that you're a badass HR pro, tell me, what's your superpower?
My superpower. I would think that it's like, for me, one of my values is integrity. And so I always try to keep it real. I operate from the heart. Like, I don't know how to do it really any other way. So I really try to listen. I've practiced active listening because I wasn't always so great at that. So I really just try to be, more vulnerable and listen. It helps people connect, I think, more authentically and deeply with me. And, my clients, they're business owners, they're entrepreneurs, they're leaders. They want to feel heard and understood, right? And then they want guidance. They want guidance to come from that conversation, and they want real action behind that guidance. So for me, I want to see, their businesses succeed. I want to see other people succeed. And then, like, on a personal side, I like to see people succeed, and especially those who have struggled, who were dealt crappy cards in life. So I actually, I volunteer now at a nonprofit organization. They're called Chrysalis. And so they have like case management. They have a whole job readiness program. They help folks overcome barriers to reentering the workforce. And so it's really rewarding getting to help those folks and help them, create a resume for the first time or first time in a long time.
So important. That's so important. Yeah. I think for, even just for me, if I'm not comfortable, if I don't have help doing something, then I probably won't be motivated to do it. I feel like some of the homeless people on the street. Have you watched any of that stuff? There's, oh man, I cannot remember his name, but he is a barber and he takes homeless people from the street. He cleans them up. He helps them, do a resume. He's not a professional at all, but just helps them, gives them that little aid, and they end up finding jobs. And with jobs comes confidence and enters back into society, which is a very hard thing to do. I commend you on that, Maria. That's awesome. How long have you been involved with them?
Fairly new. So I actually started with them just before COVID and started doing some shadowing in practice interviews and resume building, and then COVID hit and they had to totally pivot and figure out how to do things remotely. So it's a whole different ballgame now. Like, we have to do everything remote. A lot of these folks, they don't have access to computers, so we do everything over the phone. So it's been an interesting process. Yeah.
It's tough. Anyways, thank you for doing that. We need more people like you. Community driven. Let's do this. So what should employers be thinking about in this climate? Another loaded question.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I think, employers are stressed right now. Most likely they're worried about they're worried about their business. They have their own families, their own personal life. I think it's important for them too to understand that just like they are stressed and worried, so are their employees. They might be stressed, they might be fearful, anxious, they might be frustrated, experiencing grief. Maybe they lost somebody to COVID. They might have burnout themselves and their parents, and maybe they're working from home and trying to homeschool kids remotely. It's I know you know about that.
That's true.
Yeah. I'm like, all I got to worry about is my dog, like not begging me for treats throughout the day. But it's I can't imagine. It's really tough. So I think that now, like, really is a time to communicate with employees, like show up, have those difficult conversations, be somewhat vulnerable. Creating feedback loops is super important. Check in on your people, just see how they're doing. What do you need? And then beyond COVID safety concerns, I think employers really should not ignore the racial injustices that are continuing to happen. It's always been there. The veil has just been lifted, and employers haven't already considered diversity, equity, inclusion before now. Now's the time to do it. So I'd say, center and lift up the voices of the marginalized in your organization. Revisit your diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. Just take a look at things. Just take a look at the big picture. Does everybody have an equal opportunity to grow? Who moves up in your organization? What does leadership look like? How do you celebrate success? Like, do you talk about and value civility in the workplace? I think that those are all things that are really important to think about right now. It's a lot, but
Absolutely. As you know, I do tenant rep, and most of the people who I'm around are older gentlemen. And there are times where this is obviously before COVID, but I walk into a room and it's like all men, and I'm thinking, okay, well, what can I possibly have to say here when they're all, talking, maybe sports or maybe something that just doesn't really interest me. Okay, how am I going to make an impact? How am I going to do this? And it's like going through the threshold, but not everyone can do that all the time, nor should they have to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Totally.
Our next question is authenticity. You mentioned that a lot, and I think it's really important. If you're not genuine and you don't have a sincere passion, then you either need to find a new career or find a new hobby or do something different, because it really does show in everything you do, the way you treat people. And I mean, even your business, 6 years old and already profitable, like that's like a great congratulations, mazel, like really good news, So how do you use all of your stuff and help other leaders? Like, I always say things like leaders lifting leaders kind of thing. How do you do that? Because you are inspirational. Your energy is contagious. You always have such a great attitude, and you have to go into situations that might not always be great, and that's why they've hired you. How do you help?
Yeah, thanks, Liddy. Yeah, I feel like this could be a really long conversation, so I'll try to maybe just bring up like one example, right? I think I talked about a little bit about listening before, so definitely really listening to them and figure out what are the challenges they're having. And one challenge that I found is like a very common theme is leaders oftentimes don't know how or want to avoid having difficult conversations with employees. Maybe it's about performance or behavior issues that they're noticing. And so because they're not sure how to address it or they want to avoid confrontation, like they just avoid it altogether. And then the issue doesn't get addressed. And then before they know it, their blood is boiling about this person who continues to do the same thing that they don't know that there's even a problem. And it becomes like a bigger issue. And then they'll call me and say, I want to fire this person. And I'm like, okay, what have we done up until this point? So I think part of that is just me kind of helping them navigate these conversations, giving them tools on how to have those difficult conversations. And like, just.
I mean, that right there can spill into everything in your entire life. I mean, you have difficult conversations with your children. I have teenagers. It's a difficult conversation almost every time. And there's things, my husband and I we're partners in business. We're partners in everything. And, sometimes you're just not in a good mood or the other person is in a good mood. So, coming from an understanding, empathetic standpoint is, I think, really important, because when you come from, again, authenticity, you can really feel it. And it's not like coming at someone, it's coming to them. Figure it out together.
Yeah, I think the timing is right. Like if you feel like your heart is racing because you're so upset at this person, just take a walk or hold off. Don't have that conversation yet, right? Just like you wouldn't like with your kids or your partner, like just hold off until you're cooled down. You can gather your thoughts and then you're in a place where you can have that conversation, right? And just be honest about the issue and approach it from a place of, I want to help you. I want to see you succeed. And this is why I'm going to give you this feedback. Here's what I noticed. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about how we need to, see this change or improve. So I think that's, if you approach it that way, it's not so scary.
Yeah, I agree. So what are you working on right now? And how do you see the work culture bouncing back from COVID?
What I'm working on right now.
Yeah, so like relatively speaking, in the last 6 months, what have you been working on that's pandemic related, where it can, kind of like foster the light at, the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, I mean, a lot that's COVID related is COVID safety planning.
Okay.
It's, whether it's bringing people back to work or some folks who've just been essential but haven't really put together a real actual plan. There's a lot to consider when it has to do with COVID. And I think we're probably going to talk about that in a bit, but there's just a lot to think about, and having stuff in writing and communicating. Like right now, a lot of what I'm working on is the communication plan and how can we keep that open channel if people are working remotely or if people are coming to work and they're scared. And so a lot of that is just open communication about like what's happening and what are we doing to keep you safe and what are we doing to keep us productive and, to get working together as a team if we're working remotely. So yeah, a lot of that is just like, it just depends on if the business has people working remotely or if they have people coming into work or if they're planning on coming into work, right? So it's a lot of those types of conversations, including people who have been tested COVID positive or have been exposed to people over the weekend that have tested positive, and what do you do? So a lot of the conversations since March have been about that.
I feel like, back in the day, if you had a sniffle or you had a cough, it was fine. You just came into work and you just continued with your day. Nowadays, I feel like if a coworker, which we work out of a really small satellite office, thank goodness, but if a coworker is going to be sneezing and coughing and it's like, you need to go home, buddy, for 2 weeks, it's a real game changer.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You use a quote that I found on your website, and it says, "I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And I say this mentality is so perfect for what we're going through now and how we're treating others and how we're taking the time. So how do you braid this into your business and how you run it?
Yeah, I've always loved that quote. Maya Angelou, I think, just hits it right. What is that expression? The hammer on the nail on the head or something?
Nail on the head, yeah.
It's so true, because if you were like, let's say, Lindy, you're in a meeting, and in this meeting, somebody just keeps interrupting you and talking over you. And then at the end of the meeting, praises you for all your hard work and what a great job you did on a project. When you walk away from that meeting, what are you going to remember about that person?
Not the compliment.
You're going to remember that they humiliated you, minimized you, talked over you, interrupted you. Like, that's what you're going to remember.
Right.
So I think it's important to remind ourselves of, like, it forces us to ask, like, who do we want to be, and how do we want people to remember us? So yeah, I think it's a good reminder.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Okay, so workplace survey. Rick and I did a return to the workplace survey. Everyone loved it who we sent it out to. I put it on some of my social media and LinkedIn. I've had multiple people email me, "Hey, can I have a copy of that?" We put it in our newsletter. We really kind of put it out to everyone, and it's amazing. You already know this, but to our listeners, it's amazing how many people just simply want to be heard. How many people want to have their way of thinking, their comfort level, their fear, to be addressed and to be able to be, productive and happy while you're doing it. Because what's the point of being miserable at your job, So
100%.
Yeah, I know you've done surveys. I just want to know, can you talk about the importance of surveys, how they're making a difference, and should employers be doing them right now? You know how I feel about it, but how do you feel about it?
Yeah, first I want to commend you for doing a survey, because it's so important, especially when it comes to what you did it for, and returning to the workplace. Helps you hear what people's fears are and address them, right? So, and it's involving your people, which is one of the important reasons why you do a survey, is to hear from your people and involve them in the process with making improvements. So, like, right now, it's so important to do this. We talked a little bit about, like, your employees are counting on you right now. They might be anxious, afraid, frustrated. They could feel, if they're working remotely, they might feel isolated or disconnected from their teams. So now is, like, a really important time. I'm having a lot of conversations. In fact, I just wrote a blog about whether you should do surveys right now. And so the answer...
Where do you find that? Do you find that on your website?
Yes, on my website, yes. And you can also subscribe to the newsletter when you go to my website. And a lot of times I'll also share on LinkedIn as well. And
is that just HumanageHR.com?
Yeah, I would go to my personal one. I confess I'm not so great about keeping up with all my social media pages. I need to hire somebody to do that. But yeah, so I think right now it's, we need to hear from people. We need to give them a voice. And so it's just, when you get feedback, it makes sure people feel included in the process. It's going to surface kind of like what's happening in your organization and highlight your strengths, and that you can maybe leverage and identify challenges that you have to address. And it's going to help you navigate this climate and give you some guidance for, how to be successful. One thing I have to say about surveys is please, please, please do not do them if you're not ready to take the advice and the feedback and do something with it, because it is so harmful. for morale, if you're asking for people to be vulnerable, even if it's, anonymous, people are still, especially in a smaller organization, they kind of figure they're going to know who I am by my answers. They're going to figure it out through deduction. So people are putting themselves out there and sharing with you. So please don't do them if you're not ready to take action, like really quickly. Share some of the key results with your people, involve them in the process, and share with them what you're going to do with the information that they shared. So that's super important.
Absolutely. Yeah, perception is everything. And, right now, people, unfortunately are being laid off, or, they don't know whether to go back to work because they're on furlough and they're making more money doing that. I mean, there's restaurants, there's business owners in the office and industrial space. I mean, it's like everywhere that there's, just like you said, you got to be willing to change. You got to be willing to take the constructive criticism and figure it out. I mean, for us, business owners are coming to us saying, what do I do with all this office space? I had 50 employees and now we have 6. Like everyone's working from home. What do we do? So just like you said, you got to be willing to act. It's important, because if you take the time to make the survey, to do the survey, someone takes the time to fill out the survey, and then it's like bupkis. So, what kind of leader do you want to be?
Yeah.
So let's just say you have an in-house person who maybe does the payroll or something, it's an employee of your company, your firm. How does a business owner decide to keep it that way or hire a company like yours?
Yeah, I think, because I support small and mid-sized businesses, I know that, budget and bottom line is super important for them, and they may have limited funds to invest, in having an experienced HR professional in-house, right? So that's why for them, outsourcing some of these functions really is a good option for them, because the person that they put the 5th hat on, the office manager that they put the 5th or 6th hat on as, here you go, now you can wear HR, and they don't have any experience in California employment law or how to handle some sensitive situations with employees. And it is a huge risk. It's a huge, huge risk. Even if you only have 5 people, all it takes is one disgruntled person to get litigious and sue you, and it costs a lot of money. So it's, I would say anytime you have somebody who is not an experienced HR pro in-house, consider outsourcing some of the functions. So yeah, it's going to be better for your business in the long run.
I agree. So our last question is kind of a funny question. Returning to the office. I feel like across the board, no matter what your area of expertise is, everyone's wondering, what is the workplace going to be like? Physically, remotely. Some people like to be remote. Some people like to do both, the flexibility. It's a burning question. What are some main considerations that you're advising your clients to do or not do?
When preparing to bring people back to work?
Yeah,
there's a lot there to unpack. I think doing some scenario-based analysis is going to be important. So really coming up with like a decision tree. I've kind of gone through this with clients. It's create a decision tree. So what do we do if this happens? And then if this happens, what do we do? So if somebody is symptomatic, what do we do? How long did they stay home for? If they test positive then, and they were in close proximity with somebody, what do we do with that person, and how long do they quarantine? And so it's just this kind of ripple effect to avoid an outbreak. There's a lot of things to consider. So it's just going through a scenario on how to keep people safe. It's obviously considering the workspace, right? Which Lindy, like think about the space that you have. How much room do you have to keep people physically distanced? How do you need to restructure the physical workspace to keep people safe? And then a scenario-based process about what happens if people do get sick, or if you're temperature testing, what to consider. So there's resources that I advise clients to go to, including the CDC, the California Department of Public Health, which closely follows the CDC. And then they also have to consider local guidance and local orders. So there's, several layers to it and things to consider, but definitely having a plan, having a written plan, training your people and your managers. And I think if you have enough people, create some type of a COVID task force. Like, even if it's 2 people, to be able to say, all right, you're in charge of this. If this happens, you handle this. And so you're not doing it alone.
I'm seeing a lot of companies have task force. Actually, that's a great idea. I've seen lots of emails come through, and task force is like on their little title now, and it's a great place to go. It's a safe place to go.
Yeah, and even if you're a small organization, you can literally have a task force, like I said, of 2 people.
Yeah.
It's just so you don't take it all on alone, which I know a lot of us entrepreneurs love to do, but it's involving your people, involving your employees, and do like what you did, Lindy, do a survey, listen to your employees' concerns about coming back and what ideas they have to keep everybody safe too. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for role playing with me. That was very fun.
Yes.
And thank you for your time. Thank you for everything. It's crazy because HR, I feel like, is black and white, but it really is not. There's so much gray in between that helps you through the many layers. And it's like an onion, some of them smell bad and some of them taste good, and some of them, need to move around and be shifted. And it's,
Did you just compare me to an onion?
just like the layers of it, though. The layers.
Yeah, no.
Like some layers people don't want to deal with, and that is a strong suit. I promise she doesn't smell like an onion.
No.
But yeah, it's just like you said, difficult conversations, difficult situations, new situations. Like, this is all brand new. Like, it's, we're taking steps together to say, okay, that worked, that kind of worked, but why don't we try it this way? A lot of changes. So thank you for coming. For all of you guys, listeners out there, Maria has given us a lot to think about. We can think of it from a human standpoint, from a business standpoint, which I like to integrate both, because we are all human beings going to work. And can you continue to be empathetic to your employees and your colleagues, your husband, wife, and kids, strangers. You never know what people are going through. You never know what their family's going through. And if you think implementing a system for your business that performs anything we talked about today, please reach out to Maria. And if it's maybe something that's not her specialty, she knows tons of people in her business that can, make it perfect for you guys. So enjoy your day, enjoy everything. Maria, again, thank you so much for coming. And this is the end of Level Up with me, Lindy P. And see you for the next episode.
Thanks, Lindy. Can I just say really quickly, if people want to find me, they can go to my website, which is HumanageHR.com, or look me up, Maria Cordova, on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
This was fun. Thanks for having me. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Thanks, Maria.